Coming up on Mississippi Roads, we go wild about animals as we visit a wildlife rescue center, take a look behind the scenes at the animals at the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science, and visit an alpaca farm. All that coming up now on Mississippi Roads.
Down Mississippi Road. Mississippi Road.
Well, hi, welcome to Mississippi Roads. I'm Walt Grayson, and this is my co-host this week. This is Cecil. Cecil is a miniature donkey who lives at the Reunion Equestrian Center in Madison. And we've got Cecil with us this week because the whole show is about animals. Now, miniature donkeys tend to be very protective of other animals, and they're very domesticated. Now, in our first story, we're going to meet some animals who definitely are not domesticated, but they need some protection too. And they get it at a rescue center in Van Cleve.
We're here, and we're here for the animals. This is Woody. This beaver came to us from Central Mississippi Wildlife Rehabilitation. So he'll be in rehabilitation with us for the next 2 years. Wild at Heart Rescue was founded by Missy Dubuisson. She's the spokesperson for wildlife here on the coast.
I love all animals, and it's just a God-given gift to do this. I've done it my whole life. Wildlife tends to be overlooked a lot of times. They get hurt in the road and people just pass them by, and I thought we could make a difference. So in 2012, I founded Wild at Heart Rescue, and we take in injured, sick, and orphaned wildlife of Mississippi. They come in orphaned, sick, some horrible injuries, and we nurse them back to health and get them back into the wild as quickly as we can.
It's been the most rewarding, heartbreaking, joyful job that I've ever had. I've always had a love of animals and met Missy, and I haven't looked back since.
We put out about 3,500 animals a year. We take in about 5,000. It's unreal. In rehab, we have foxes, bobcats, turtles, raccoons, possums, squirrels, owls, ospreys, vultures. We are the only rescue in Mississippi that has the regulated size flight enclosure for eagles and smaller birds of prey. We have bats. We have a couple bats in there. We just received some little baby screech owls that fell 8 feet and are significantly injured, but they should do well. We have snakes. A lot of people don't like snakes, but we take care of them and get them back out into the wild. And possums. Possums are my favorite. We have about 300 of those. So.
When we think about the number of animals that are out there that get injured at any one point in time, both wild and domestic, there are services for domestic animals. Your average veterinarian, well, somebody could pick up a dog on the side of the road and go pick it up and take it to their vet. When it comes to wildlife, it's a whole different situation. It requires a lot of volunteers. It requires money. These wildlife animals that are stuck on the side of the road or hit don't have a wallet or a pocketbook. So it takes organizations like Wild at Heart to be able to pick up those animals, transport those animals, veterinarians like ourselves to be able to take care of them and prescribe their treatments. And then, of course, I have tons of people here that do a lot of the work.
This will actually help with that. We couldn't do it by ourselves. It takes a village to take care of these animals. There's so many of them, and we have a great team. Our volunteers absolutely have to have a love of animals because it's a free service that they provide to the state of Mississippi. And you know, we tell them it's not all about taking care of cute little fuzzy things. This is life and death, blood and guts every day. And sometimes we'll get a volunteer here and they take an hour to help us and you never see them again because they don't realize how much work is involved in it.
Oh, look at you.
But they have to have a love of animals or it's not going to work.
That's so cute. You just gotta love them. You just got to.
Missy is wonderful. I've known Missy 4 years now, and I've been lucky enough to be part of her wildlife. She's included me and let me run with the raccoon program, but she's fabulous. She told me that when she was younger and unable to do a lot because of her health issues as a child, she really got involved with the animals around her home, and that involved wildlife, snakes and turtles, and possums, and that's where she fell in love with the possums.
Without a doubt.
She has been known as the possum queen. I have made fun of possums for most of my career. I mean, you know, Australia has got some of the coolest marsupials on the planet. They're all pretty, they're all cute, you know, and then we get the American possum, and it doesn't hold up as far as looks go.
Possums are our oldest living marsupial, and they're so misunderstood. They're really amazing animals if you watch them and observe them. They're my favorites in the world. They're so cute. You gotta love them.
Missy has loved them since the beginning, and she has actually found ways and engineered ways to make them survive that no one else has been able to do before. So again, she is known as the possum queen.
There's not a possum in the world that I don't know the GPS coordinates to. I can promise you that. It's just an amazing feeling. You get these animals in with no hope, and then you watch them progress, and then you watch them get ready to go home. And then when you release them, there's nothing like it. You may get an animal that comes in with everything broken, intestines, injuries, internal injuries, and then you watch them heal, and you know that you had a part in that. And to put them back in nature where they're declining rapidly, it's a great feeling to do that.
They're a valuable part of our ecosystem, and every animal in the wildlife sector has a purpose.
As much as this area does for us as far as ecotourism, you know, wildlife is the cornerstone of all that. And if we cannot keep our wildlife alive, we cannot protect them or do them some service like they do for us, then we really are wasting a lot of our natural resources. We're not alone in this world, and if we don't protect it and the animals that are in it, we're gonna lose it.
It takes a lot of hard work and dedication to take care of an animal when they're injured. But I tell you what, it takes just as much hard work, dedication, and education to take care of them when they're not. Let's find out about that as we kind of step behind the scenes at the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science and see how they take care of their animals.
I think one aspect that we're always working on is trying to eliminate fear, that we don't have to be afraid of wild things. We don't have to be afraid of wild places. I've seen people conquer that fear and be able to touch an alligator or touch a snake and realize that most animals are just out there living their lives, and it's okay to be out there.
There's usually two types of people. There's the sort of person that is absolutely obsessed and, you know, they're just here to see the animals because they love them so much. We often, though, get a different type of person who they're absolutely terrified of snakes. If they walk past the snake tanks, they back off and kind of walk the other way. I like to think that we slowly help people to understand that not all snakes are to be feared. Most, if you're not sure if it's venomous or not, to give it a wide path and just sort of turn the other way if you're scared.
We are at the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science in LaFleur's Bluff State Park. We're part of the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, and that makes us a little bit unique throughout the country. There are not very many aquariums/museums that are run by state agencies. We are trying to highlight Mississippi's wildlife, both plant and animal. So we focus solely on Mississippi, and that makes us kind of unique. Most other aquariums or zoos are going to try and highlight things from all over the world, but we're focusing what's in our own backyard.
Well, the museum started in the 1930s. Having the live animal aspect is really important to us. That's a highlight for a lot of people's visits here. They love to see those live animals, and not only the ones that are displayed in the aquariums, but we get live animals out and use them in programs too.
Very friendly. Okay, the top of the shell of a turtle or a tortoise is called the carapace. You know, say carapace? Carapace, okay.
We have what the staff call animal ambassadors, and we have some animals that are maintained and kept here just for creature features. And these animals are animals that we trust. They can handle being around a large crowd, and they're used to being touched. And we have a little bit of everything, from turtles and alligators to a possum and an owl.
Most birds eat, what, seeds and insects, right? What do you think this bird would eat? Mice. Mice, right, they eat mice. This is the smallest type of owl in Mississippi, called an eastern screech owl.
We want to entertain people. We want to inspire people to understand how much diversity we have in the state, but also to be able to see that animal up close. It's so meaningful, and we can use that to spark interest and educate people.
We get a lot of calls where people have animals that they've either found in their backyard, and most of them want to know what it is. And it's really hard to do that over the phone, so we'll always ask them to send us pictures if they can. But most of the people are trying to just get identification. What is it? Is it safe? How do I get rid of it? So we try and discourage people from wanting to give us animals. Now, occasionally we'll get something really unique.
She's a two-headed rat snake. She's about 16 years old. And I have to feed her mice instead of rats, and 2 mice instead of 1 big rat, because her two-headed syndrome makes a split in the esophagus, so she can't eat normal prey items. I have to help her out.
Some visitors, as soon as they walk in the door, they ask, "Where's the two-headed snake?" When that two-headed snake arrived, it was a man and his daughter were working in their yard, and they discovered this two-headed snake, and it was small. It was just 6 or 7 inches long, and he realized that it had 2 heads. He thought he had actually injured it first, but it did have 2 heads, and he brought it to us, and it would have never been able to survive in the wild, but our staff fed it by hand, and has fed it by hand ever since.
Well, every day we've got to come into the museum to feed the animals, and that means every day. Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, there's one of us in the building at least for a few hours to feed the animals. Advice for feeding alligators is don't, if you can help it. The alligators we have here, we raise from when they're hatchlings. They end up in this large tank behind me when they get really big. And even at this point, after we've had them for 3 or 4 years, they are still pretty wild. They are not animals that you should ever think can be raised as a pet. As you'll see when we feed these guys, they can be quite rambunctious.
There's so much to see here, but the live animals are our stars, and people love our native animals and our live animals, and that's a highlight for their visit.
I think the main thing I'd like the public to know about the museum is that we are here. It amazes me that how many people I meet that live locally in Jackson that don't even know that the museum is even here, and every time they come, they're so, you know, we'll have like a contractor or a caterer come in and they're like, wow, I didn't even know you guys were back here. And they're so impressed, but it just seems to be getting that word out that we are, in fact, here. Come and have a look.
Some animals are easy to love when they're warm and fuzzy, like old Cecil here, and sometimes maybe not so easy when they're sort of scaly and scary like the ones we just saw. But there's some animals that just absolutely will not let you love them And it's odd because they have love in their name. Although they do not bite nor do they sting, there is no love lost between human beings and love bugs. They are pests of the first order, some years more pesky than others. But they're never one of those welcome signs of the changing of the seasons, like the dogwood bloom of spring or the leaves of autumn. Instead of filling one's heart with lightness at the signals of the coming refreshing in nature, the arrival of the love bug just clues us that we're in for about 4 weeks of having to deal with splattered windshields and crunchy, squishy, smelly walkways. Scientifically, the love bug is the Plecea nearctica, or something close to that. It's a species of march fly native to Central America, and now along the Gulf Coast of the United States. The love bug goes by several names: honeymoon fly, double-headed fly, double-headed because during and after mating, the mature male and female remain together for several days. The first scientific write-up about the love bug came in 1940, but they had already been seen in Louisiana as early as 1911. And by the end of the 20th century, they were spread from Texas through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, into Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. We don't really notice the larvae. They stay on the ground and feed on decayed vegetation. In that stage, they're actually beneficial to a degree, I guess. But in the adult stage, when they take to wing and take to each other, not so much. My personal experience with love bugs, I seem to remember them many years ago when I took an autumn trip to South Texas. I'd never seen anything like them here at home before. Someone there advised that we pour Coke over our windshield with the wipers on and that'd get rid of them. Maybe it worked, can't remember. Current folk wisdom says you can wipe them off your car bumper with a bounce sheet. I have discovered a drive through the car wash works best. One or two of them wouldn't be a problem, but more often they seem to come in batches of 1 or 2 million, probably because they don't seem to have any natural enemies. Birds don't seem to care for them. Now, the most common enemy of love bugs seems to be automobile windshields. However, in recent years, the annual eruption of mating pairs doesn't seem to be as plentiful as a decade and a half ago, with some years being heavier than others. There's several folk remedies posted on social media to try to get rid of them at your house. I haven't found any that I'd call effective yet. Spraying lemon dishwashing liquid mixed with mouthwash diluted in water on walls and windows didn't do all that much. Wiping it off the windows does leave a pleasing shine, however. No, maybe the best way to deal with them is just put up with them until the invasion is over. The adult pairs only live individually from 2 to 4 days, but they just keep on coming, wave after wave. I'll end with what a motorcyclist told me at the gas pump the other day when I asked him if the love bugs weren't about to drive him crazy. He said, "Yeah, but they sure do keep me full." Well, I don't think you'd call love bugs cuddly, so let's end with an animal that is. Let's go to an alpaca farm and find out how these animals not only survive, but thrive in Stringer, Mississippi.
When we went to visit our first alpaca farm, I touched one and it's the softest thing you've ever felt. A lot of times I'll say it's like you're not feeling anything. And we were not farmers. We didn't know anything about farming. And I said, we have to get these. And we did. We started with 4. When we lived in New York, I was a postmaster and I had taken a job in a different town and we moved. And we saw these creatures out in the field and had absolutely no idea what they were. And so we started checking it out on the internet. And right after that, the National Alpaca Association had open houses at different farms. And we started visiting and I touched one and that was it. I had to have them. We ended up here from New York because we couldn't stand the cold and the snow anymore. People knew we were coming here before we got here because the man we bought the house from told everybody the alpacas were coming. So I actually set the store up before I got my house set up because people were interested. I was trying to find a way to draw more people to the farm. And there's the Pecan Festival and the Peanut Festival and the Watermelon Festival, and I said, well, we should just have an alpaca festival. I surprisingly have people come from all over. Florida, people come from Florida very often, Alabama, Louisiana. I've had some people come from Texas. So word spreads pretty far. And because it's so unique, they want to come and see what's going on. When we have the Alpaca Festival, we have 30 vendors here. Besides having our store open, our back porch will have all the different fiber demonstrations, all the things you can do with the hair. We'll have arts and crafts vendors. We have a station where kids can paint their own pictures. We've got Mr. Silly Socks making balloon animals for the kids. We've got several food vendors, bounce houses, face painting, all that sort of stuff. The alpaca hair is 3 times warmer than wool, 10 times softer, naturally hypoallergenic, and naturally water resistant. We shear them once a year, and here, now that we're in Mississippi, we shear them the beginning of April. We have to do it before it gets too hot here. I take the raw fiber, and first step is you run it through the carder, and that lines all the fibers up so they're going in the same direction. And from there you get roving, and from the roving you spin it into yarn. From the yarn, I weave, I knit, I crochet. We make everything from hats and headbands to scarves and ponchos and shawls. They do have alpaca shows, and they'll judge them on the density of their fiber, their conformation, whether their bodies are correct, if their necks are proportionate to their legs. But because they are fiber animals, there's more emphasis on their coat being softer, a lower micron, and the density of it. They're part of the camelid family, along with camels, llamas, vicuñas, guanacos, but they are for their hair. The Andes Mountains, Peru, Bolivia, and Chile is where they originated, and they started the importation into the United States in the early 90s. They only kept it open for 5 years, so the only place you can get them now is from somebody in the United States. The difference between the alpacas and the llamas is the llamas are much bigger. They are twice the size, and their hair is not as fine as the alpacas. They're also pack animals. So in the Andes Mountains, the llamas carry the packs up and down the mountain. Alpacas are very family-oriented. So if you have a daughter, a mother, and a grandmother, when it comes time to go to sleep at night, they'll lay down lined up next to each other. They communicate with each other by body language. The position their ears are in, the tilt of their neck. Really, the only sounds they make is if they're really unhappy and stressed, they'll make a humming sound. And everybody says, oh, look how nice, but it's not a good sound. If your alpaca's humming, something's wrong. They are our pets. I do think of them as pets, but not like a dog. They all have names. They all have registered names, and then they have names we call them, and no one would ever come to their name. If you have food, everybody's your friend. And when they're done with you, they move on. And people always say, well, are they like dogs? No, they're like cats. If they have time for you, then you're okay.
Well, that's all the time we have for this show. I want to thank my buddy Cecil for co-hosting with me. And if you'd like information about anything you've seen, contact us at mpbonline.org/Mississippi Roads. And make sure you like our Mississippi Public Broadcasting Facebook page. And check out our Mississippi Roads Facebook page, too. Until next time, me and old Cecil will be seeing you Well, there he goes. I'll be seeing you on Mississippi Roads.
Mississippi Roads is made possible in part by the generous support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Walt Grayson. You know, we really enjoy bringing you Mississippi Roads every week. We appreciate you watching it. And we really appreciate those of you who support Mississippi Public Broadcasting, because your support of MPB not only helps programs like ours stay on the air, but other MPB productions. Your contributions support everything from MPB original documentaries to MPB radio shows, to MPB's literacy outreach programs in homes and schools statewide, to programs like our reading services for the blind and our emergency communication services during hurricanes and other disasters. You see, we do a lot of MPB, and we depend on you to help us do it. If you'd like to contribute now, please go to our website, mpbonline.org, and click Donate Now in the top right corner. Because when you do that, you're helping MPB help all Mississippians. Because like we say, Mississippi is our mission.